My stepmom said I was just extra luggage after my dad passed, so I sold the house she was living in and left her with a suitcase. Guys, I don't even know where to begin. But yeah, this is about my stepmom, the woman my dad married when I was 13, the woman who looked me in the face the day after his funeral and called me extra luggage. Let me rewind though, because this mess, it didn't start there. It started with grief. Raw, hollow, and terrifying grief. My dad passed away unexpectedly. It was a heart attack. No warning, no signs, just gone. I was in the middle of a Zoom meeting when I got the call from the hospital. I don't even remember what I said to my coworkers. I just closed my laptop, stood up, and walked straight out of the apartment like a ghost. The days after? A blur. Planning the funeral, calling relatives, dealing with paperwork, trying to hold it together for my little stepsister Mia, who's only 15. She's not biologically related to me, but I helped raise her while our parents were constantly working. She clung to me like her life depended on it. And my stepmom? Her name's Trisha. Blonde, poised, always immaculately dressed. The kind of woman who'd wear heels to a backyard barbecue and call it classy. At first, she was playing the grieving widow part like it was her Oscar moment, sobbing into tissues that just happened to match her outfit, whispering things like, he was my soulmate, while ignoring the fact that she and my dad had been fighting non-stop the last year of his life. But I didn't say anything. I didn't want to fight. I was focused on getting through the funeral. And I had no idea that behind the scenes, Trisha was already moving chess pieces I couldn't even see. The funeral itself was hard. Like, so hard I couldn't breathe the whole time. Seeing my dad's casket, hearing the pastor talk about how family was everything to him, and all I could think was, yeah, then why does it feel like mine's falling apart? After the service, people came back to the house, my dad's house. The one he bought before he even met Trisha. The one I grew up in. And that night, Trisha dropped the bomb. She waited until everyone left. I was helping clear plates from the kitchen, still wearing the black dress I'd cried in all day. And she just casually said it. So, you'll need to be out by the end of the month. I froze. She didn't even blink. This isn't your home anymore. You're not a child. And frankly, with your father gone, keeping you around feels like dragging extra luggage. No offense. No offense? I swear I almost choked. This woman I let borrow my flat iron. This woman whose daughter I helped with school projects and bedtime stories. She looked me in the eye and called me extra luggage. I laughed. Not because it was funny, because it felt like the only thing I could do to keep from screaming. I grew up in this house, Trisha. She tilted her head, all fake pity. And you've outgrown it. Look, your father was generous, but you're a grown woman now. You'll land on your feet. I didn't even know what to say. I just stood there, heart pounding, mouth open like someone had slammed a door on my past and locked it behind me. I left that night, packed a weekend bag and went to stay at a friend's place just to breathe. And that was the beginning of the end. 'Cause while I was grieving, Trisha was busy. Busy changing locks. Busy moving my dad's stuff into boxes. The one she didn't want, at least. Busy turning our family home into her personal HGTV project. And me, I went into detective mode. I needed to understand how she had the power to kick me out of my own childhood home. My dad didn't have a will, at least not one anyone could find, and Trisha kept saying she was handling the estate, but wouldn't show me any documents. So I started digging, contacted my dad's lawyer, checked the county property records, got on calls I didn't even know how to make, fumbling through legal jargon and email threads like a full-blown amateur. And that's when I found it. My dad did have a will. It just hadn't gone through probate yet. And guess what? He left the house to me. Not to Trisha. Not to Mia. Not even split. To me. Let that sink in. All that time she was redecorating like she was on Selling Sunset, she didn't even own the house. I almost laughed again, but this time it was the oh she messed with the wrong one kind of laugh. Because if she thought I was just gonna roll over and disappear, girl, she had no idea who she was messing with. But first, I needed to be smart. Strategic. I didn't want this turning into a screaming match in the driveway or a viral TikTok of me throwing hands on the porch. So I waited. I played along. Sent her a text saying I'd look for apartments. Told her I understood. And then quietly got a lawyer. A very good lawyer. One who told me exactly how to handle the next steps. And how to make sure she couldn't pull anything shady with the deed or the estate. Trisha had no idea I was already 2 steps ahead. But don't worry, she was about to find out. Before I get deeper into this, I'd love to know what city, state, or country you're watching from today. Drop it in the comments below. And if stories about finding your voice and standing your ground speak to you, hit that like button and consider subscribing so you never miss the next one. Thank you, and let's keep going. Okay, so now I knew the house was mine. Like legally. Fully. My dad left it to me in his will. A will that Trisha clearly hoped no one would ever find. But here's the part that really gets me, she knew. I don't think she was clueless, I think she banked on me being too broken by grief to fight back. Too polite. Too nice. The kind of person who'd just let herself be pushed out quietly to keep the peace. Not anymore. So I lawyered up. And trust, my lawyer Karen, yeah her real name, was a shark. Kind of woman who reads estate law the way other people read romance novels. She was already 5 moves ahead of me by the time I even finished explaining what happened. This isn't just petty, she said on our first call. It's estate fraud if she's been pretending she had authority over the property. I blinked. Wait, that's an actual thing? Oh honey, Karen said. You have no idea how deep this goes. So here's what we did. First, she filed the will with probate. That kicked off the legal process and froze any shady moves Trisha might try to pull with the property, like refinancing it or transferring it or whatever nonsense she was cooking up. Then we drafted a formal notice of ownership, legally informing Trisha that, effective immediately, the house belonged to me and that she was occupying it without permission. And yes, we mailed it certified, because if she wanted to pretend she didn't get it, she'd have to lie to the US Postal Service. And I don't think even she was bold enough to pull that crap. While we waited for her reaction, I started collecting everything: photos, texts, receipts, old voicemails, anything that could help establish a paper trail of how she treated me, what she'd said after my dad passed, and how she tried to push me out. I wasn't just going for ownership. I was going for closure. See, this wasn't just about the house. This was about a woman who watched my dad love me, watched me grieve him, and still chose to treat me like a disposable inconvenience the second he was gone. That kind of cruelty leaves a mark, but it also fuels a fire. And I was burning. Now here's where things get juicy. About a week after we sent the letter, Trisha finally called me. I was in the car. My phone lit up with her name, and I swear I almost didn't answer. But curiosity got the better of me. I pulled over and hit accept. Her voice? Sugar sweet. Hey, sweetie. I got a weird letter from some lawyer saying you're claiming the house. I played dumb. Yeah? That is weird. She laughed, forced and tight. I mean, we both know your dad wanted me to have it. It just makes sense. I stayed quiet. Anyway, she kept going, I figured it must be a mistake. I'm sure once we talk it through, we can find something fair. Maybe I keep the house and we give you a little money from the equity or something. Girl, I actually snorted. Trisha, the house is mine. Silence. I continued. Legally. Fully. Dad left it to me. You've been living there for free, acting like you're the queen of something that was never yours. Now her voice dropped, cold, sharp. You're making a huge mistake. No, I said. You did. When you treated me like luggage. She hung up. Classic. The next day, she tried to call again. I didn't answer. Then she started texting. Long paragraphs about how this isn't what your dad would have wanted, how Mia needs stability, how you're being vindictive. The emotional manipulation was Olympic level. But I didn't flinch. I wasn't taking that house out of spite. I was taking it because it was mine. 'Cause she tried to erase me like I was some guest in my own life. 'Cause Mia or no Mia, you don't treat people like garbage and expect to keep living in the palace. So, Karen filed the final paperwork. Served Trisha with a 30-day notice to vacate. Legally, she had no grounds to fight. She wasn't even on the title. And now came the part where I had to face Mia. God, that part still stings. I loved that kid. She was my baby sister in every way that mattered. But I had no idea if Trisha had turned her against me. I didn't want to believe it, but I knew how easily teenagers get swayed, especially when their only surviving parent is feeding them stories. So I reached out. I texted her first, just, hey, can we talk? She replied almost instantly. Are you okay? Cried when I saw it. She'll tears. Like snot and everything. We met up at a little park near the house. She brought a bottle of Coke and a bag of tacos, our go-to snacks during movie nights growing up, and she looked scared. I don't want to pick sides, she said immediately before I even sat down. I'm not asking you to, but Mom said you're kicking us out. I sighed. I'm not kicking you out. I'm reclaiming what's mine. And I'm sorry that hurts, but Trisha tried to erase me, Mia. She lied about the will. She treated me like I was nothing. Mia looked down. She said you don't love me anymore. My throat clenched. That's not true. She didn't answer, just kept picking at the Coke label. Then she whispered, can I still visit you? I broke. You can live with me if you want. That got a tiny smile. And that was enough for me. Now all that was left was the move out. And listen, I made sure it was one for the books. Because next up, I gave her a date, a final warning, and a gift. You'll never guess what it was. Let's just say, if I'm extra luggage, she better know how to pack. Okay, so by the time Trish's 30-day notice was almost up, I had already decided I wasn't just going to evict her. I was going to embarrass her. Because if someone's going to call you extra luggage after your dad passes, after you help raise their kid, after you pour your soul into holding a broken little family together, you don't just let them walk away with a slap on the wrist. You send them packing. Literally. But first, let's talk planning. The last week of her notice, I didn't hear a peep from her. No emails, no texts, no legal letters. Nothing. Which told me she was either preparing for a last-minute Hail Mary or pretending it wasn't happening. Honestly, I figured it was the latter. Because Trish's whole vibe was, if I ignore the fire, maybe it'll go out on its own. So I prepared. Karen helped me book a local constable for the actual eviction, just in case things got dramatic. And I coordinated with a locksmith to change the locks the second she was gone. I even booked a cleaning service for the day after because yeah, I had plans for that house. Big ones. But the cherry on top? I bought a suitcase. A sleek little silver carry-on, brand new, tag still on it. And I left it on the porch right next to the front door. No note. No explanation. Just sitting there. Waiting. I know. Petty? Sure. But also, poetic. Eviction day came and y'all, it was wild. I showed up early. Brought my best friend Jay with me for backup because, let's be honest, confronting a woman who basically tried to erase you from your own dad's legacy is not exactly a solo mission. Jay brought donuts and a whole attitude, ready to go full Real Housewives if needed. We pulled up in my car and saw her SUV in the driveway, which was not what I wanted to see. Bro, Jay said, peering out the window. You think she's gonna play dumb again? I don't think she's moved a single box, I muttered. We waited. 10 minutes. 15. Nothing. So I knocked. And when I say she took her sweet time opening that door, I mean slow motion. Eventually, it cracked open and there she was. Trisha. No makeup. Wearing some silk robe like she lived in a soap opera. Oh, she said flatly. It's you. I smiled. Morning. Just here to make sure you're out on time. She crossed her arms. I have nowhere to go. I blinked. You had 30 days. I thought you'd come to your senses. Trisha, I said calmly, I did come to my senses. That's why we're here. Behind me, Jay waved from the porch like, Hi, here for the drama. Trisha scowled. I stepped aside and gestured toward the little suitcase. You said I was extra luggage. So I figured, here's one less thing to carry. Her face? Priceless. Like, you know when someone tries so hard to look unbothered but their entire soul is vibrating with rage? That. She didn't say anything. Just stared at it like it had personally offended her. Then she turned back into the house, slammed the door, and locked it. I sighed. Cool. We're doing that now. 10 minutes later, the constable arrived. Very polite, very professional, and very not here for games. I handed him the paperwork. He gave the door one last knock. Ma'am, you've been served official notice. It's time to vacate. No answer. So yeah, legal right equals access granted. Constable stepped aside, the locksmith got to work, and in less than 10 minutes, Trisha's reign over that house was officially done. She stood in the foyer while it all happened, arms crossed, glaring like a villain at the end of a cancelled soap series. You're heartless, she hissed. I stayed calm. No, I'm just not your doormat. She kept muttering under her breath while she dragged out 2 suitcases and a plastic bin. No Mia, no apology, no dignity. Just pure, bitter energy. Jay, bless him, leaned over and whispered, Should I play Single Ladies on my phone right now? I almost lost it. Trisha stomped past the porch without another word. She didn't even touch the silver suitcase I left her. Just gave it a death glare and got into her SUV. And then she was gone. Just like that. No speech. No parting shot. Not even a fake tear. The house was finally mine. I walked through every room that afternoon, touched the walls, pinned the drawers, found a few of my dad's old things she hadn't bothered to pack. His favorite baseball cap, a photo of us from my college graduation, a letter he wrote me when I was 16 that said, You'll always have a place in my heart and in my home. I sat on the living room floor and cried until the sun went down. That night I slept there, and I felt something I hadn't felt since before he passed. Peace. But don't worry, this isn't the end. Because a few days later, I got a text from Mia, and what she said, yeah, plot twist incoming. 3 days after Trisha left, I was starting to breathe like a real human again. The house was finally quiet. Not like spooky quiet, but peaceful quiet. No more tight energy. No more weird tension around every corner. No more stepping into the kitchen and feeling like someone hated me from across the granite countertop. Just me, a bucket of paint samples, and a playlist of sad songs I was pretending weren't sad. I was mid-swipe on a dusty hallway wall when my phone buzzed. It was Mia. Text. Hey, can I come over? I just stared at it for a second. Not because I didn't want her to, I did, but because I had no clue what version of Mia I was about to get. The sweet kid who used to fall asleep on my shoulder during movie nights? Or the teenager whose mom probably spent the last month convincing her I was the villain? I texted back, Of course. You don't even have to ask. 20 minutes later, she showed up and she looked tired. Not I stayed up too late scrolling TikTok tired, but my world just flipped upside down and I don't know which way is up tired. I let her in. We didn't say much at first. She wandered the house like she was walking through a dream, pausing in the living room, glancing down the hall, staring at a chipped mug on the counter that she clearly remembered from when we used to bake brownies on Sundays. Finally, she turned to me and said, It doesn't feel like home anymore. I nodded. I know. Then she dropped her backpack and sat cross-legged on the floor. She said I'd hate you if I came here. I blinked. Your mom? She shrugged. Yeah, she said you stole our house. That you wanted to punish her. That you're selfish. I let out a breath. Do you believe that? She looked at me and her eyes were already glassy. No, but I wanted to. That hit harder than I expected. I was so mad, she said, pulling her sleeves over her hands. Like, I didn't even understand what was happening. One day we're planning Dad's funeral, and the next she's crying in the kitchen saying you turned on her. I sat down beside her. Mia, your mom tried to kick me out the day after Dad passed. She called me luggage. Like I didn't belong. She flinched. She told me you left on your own. Nope. She lied a lot, she whispered. And I think I knew, but I didn't want to deal with it. So I just kinda went along with whatever made me feel less alone. That broke something in me. 'Cause underneath all the paperwork, all the property drama, all the petty karma, this was still a kid. Kid who lost her dad. Kid who got caught in the emotional crossfire between 2 adults who were supposed to be her safe place. I leaned against the wall. I never wanted to hurt you. I was just trying to protect what was left of Dad. She nodded. Then she said something I will never forget. She told me I was your dad's real kid and that meant I deserved the house more. Pause. I didn't speak. I couldn't. 'Cause that sentence stabbed straight through the chest. I asked her what that made you, Mia continued, and she said you were just a reminder of his first life, that you didn't really fit in anymore. I blinked hard. She made me feel like loving you was betraying her. I grabbed her hand. You never have to choose between us, I said. But you do get to decide what kind of person you want to be. She nodded again, slow. I know. That's why I came. I want to stay with you. I stared. I mean, just for a while. I can't be around her right now. Not until I figure stuff out. She's been spiraling since you took the house. Yelling, crying, blaming me for not turning against you. My stomach twisted. She said that to you? Mia gave a sad smile. She said I let her get kicked onto the street, like I was supposed to fight for her. You're not responsible for her decisions, Mia. That's not your job. I know, she said quietly, but it still feels heavy. We sat there for a long time. No noise but the creaks in the walls and the hum of the fridge. And I realized this was the part of grief people don't talk about. The aftermath, the rearranging, the rebuilding of trust in the rubble of what used to be. Eventually, I got up, grabbed a blanket from the hall closet and tossed it at her. Guest room's all yours, I said. No eviction notices. Promise. She laughed. Just a little. But it felt real. That night, we ate microwave mac and cheese and watched Legally Blonde on the floor. She fell asleep halfway through. And for the first time in weeks, I didn't feel like the villain in my own story. But the next morning, Trishas struck back. She left a review. She went full scorched earth and blasted me on a widow's grief support forum. Yeah, let that sink in. When Trisha realized she couldn't hurt me legally or financially, she went for the one thing she thought she could still control, the narrative. So one morning, I'm scrolling on my phone, drinking iced coffee on the porch like some emotionally exhausted suburban queen when Jay calls me. Girl, you seeing this? Seeing what? I just sent you the link. Check your texts. Right now. I open it. It's a post on this widow support forum, one of those anonymous grief communities where people vent and get advice from others going through loss. And there it was. Title: My stepdaughter evicted me weeks after my husband passed. I'm homeless now. No name, of course. But she included just enough detail that anyone who knew us would absolutely know who she was talking about. She called me a heartless orphan, said I schemed to steal the house, claimed I brainwashed her daughter, and celebrated kicking a grieving widow out like it was a victory. Said I was money-hungry and emotionally abusive. She even wrote, my late husband would be ashamed. Like, ma'am, you called me extra luggage in my own kitchen. Now you want to cry in Times New Roman and act like I'm the villain in some Lifetime movie? I was shaking. Not because I cared about random strangers on the internet judging me, but because she lied. So hard. So publicly. And then tried to wrap it in grief glitter to make herself look like a victim. It wasn't even about me, it was about control. She couldn't control the house anymore, so she wanted to control the story. I showed it to Mia. Her face went pale. She actually posted this? I nodded. Apparently I turned you against her too. Mia rolled her eyes. She turned herself against me. I didn't know what to do at first. Part of me wanted to write a long, calm, lawyer-approved rebuttal. Another part of me wanted to just comment, this you, and drop the receipts like I was on TikTok live. But Jay had a better idea. Don't fight fire with fire, he said. Fight it with screenshots. So we made a little folder. All the texts, the legal documents, the certified notice, the screenshots of her calling me names, the photo of the suitcase on the porch, even the letter from my dad's lawyer confirming the will. And then, deep breath, I made an account. Anonymous, of course. And I posted my own story. Same forum. Different tone. Title: My stepmom called me extra luggage after my dad passed. She didn't know he left me the house. Yeah, I laid it all out. From the funeral to the eviction to the suitcase. I kept it honest. Raw. Nothing exaggerated. I even said I still loved Mia and didn't regret a single step I took to protect what my dad left behind. Hundreds of comments. People DMing asking for updates. Other stepkids sharing their own stories. Even a few folks who guessed exactly who Trisha was because turns out she's not as anonymous as she thinks. One commenter wrote, she weaponized widowhood for sympathy. I've seen it before. Classic. Another said, if someone ever called me extra luggage, I'd leave them with a suitcase too. You're my hero. Jay printed that one out and taped it to my fridge. But the best part? Trisha saw it. Because the next morning, her original post was deleted. Gone. Poof. Vanished from the forum like it never happened. Which tells me one thing, she realized her performance flopped. Her solo act in Woe Is Me, the musical got booed off stage. And I didn't even have to scream or stoop to her level. I just told the truth. Mia read the whole thing. Every comment. Every message. She didn't say much, but later that night she knocked on my bedroom door and said, I'm proud of you. I almost cried. Not because I needed validation, but because that sentence coming from her felt like redemption. It meant that no matter what Trisha tried to spin, Mia saw the truth. And that was all I needed. But then, 2 weeks later, I got a letter in the mail. Handwritten. No return address. And what was inside? Yeah, it was from Trisha. Brace yourself. 'Cause that mess deserves a whole part of its own. 3-line pages and no joke, the first line said. I hope you can read this with an open heart. Girl, my heart is still recovering from the emotional sledgehammer you swung at it. But okay, let's read. Page 1. Classic Trisha. Full of vague apologies. The kind that sound like she's sorry for how I reacted, not for what she actually did. I never meant to hurt you. I was just trying to protect myself after losing the love of my life. Sometimes grief makes us say things we don't mean. I paused right there. Because if calling me extra luggage was an accident, then why did she double down for weeks after that? Why did she smear my name across the internet, lie to Mia, and gaslight me in the kitchen of my own house? But whatever. Page 2. A shift. Suddenly it's all about Mia. She's not speaking to me. She won't come home. She's been cold and distant, and I don't know how to fix it. Then this gem. You've always had a way of getting people to take your side. It's one of your more powerful traits. Like, is that a compliment? A dig? A backhanded compliment wrapped in jealousy and dipped in passive aggression? Couldn't tell. But then page 3, where the real motive kicked in. Trisha was asking for a favor. Yup. A literal actual favor. She wrote, I'm trying to get approved for an apartment, but I need a reference to show I'm stable. I was hoping you could provide one. Just something simple. They don't need details. Just confirmation that I lived at the house without issue and paid rent on time. I actually laughed out loud. Because not only did she not pay rent, she actively tried to throw me out. And now she wants me to vouch for her stability? Ma'am, you thought I was a duffel bag. Now I'm supposed to be a landlord with amnesia? I read that part twice just to make sure I didn't hallucinate it. Then I turned to Mia. Look what your mom sent me. She read the letter silently, jaw tightening with every paragraph. Then she looked up and said, You're not actually going to help her, right? I shook my head. Absolutely not. But I also don't want you caught in the middle. Mia sat back on the couch. She did this to herself. She had 30 days to figure out her life, and instead she chose to destroy yours. There was no hate in her voice. Just acceptance. Like she'd finally let go of the fantasy that her mom would ever suddenly become the person she needed her to be. And I think that was the saddest part of all. Later that night, I sat down and drafted a reply. It said, Trisha, I hope you're able to find peace eventually. But I'm not your crutch. I'm not your scapegoat. And I will not rewrite history to make you feel better about how badly you handled grief. You called me a burden. You tried to erase me. You chose cruelty not just once but repeatedly. I'm done letting you twist that into some version of events where you were the victim. This house is mine. My story is mine. And you don't get to narrate it anymore. Then I hit delete. Because the truth is, Trisha didn't deserve my words. She wanted an audience. I wasn't giving her one. So instead I sent one text. Just one. To the number she used to blow up my phone with guilt. It said, I received your letter. The answer is no. That's it. And guess what? She never replied. That was the last time I ever heard from her. But don't get it twisted. This isn't the fairy tale ending where she disappears forever and everything is perfect again. There were still ripples. Mia had nightmares for a while. Little flashbacks of fights, tears, screaming matches in the house before I came back. And I had days where I'd walk into a room and expect to see my dad, or hear him humming from the kitchen, and instead I'd just feel empty. But over time, it got better. Paint dried. The silence stopped feeling hollow. Mia started calling it home. And me? I stopped apologizing for reclaiming what was already mine. So here's the thing no one tells you about revenge that isn't loud and flashy. It still works. Like, yeah, I didn't burn her clothes or key her car or dump glitter in her suitcase, though trust, I considered it. I didn't even post her name anywhere or air out the voicemail where she called me a cold little leech. But you know what I did do? I moved back into my father's house, the house she tried to erase me from, and made it mine again. One brushstroke at a time. First up, the walls. The beige and gray HGTV nightmare she painted over my childhood got covered. Bright yellows, soft greens, cozy terracotta, real color. Real personality. Kind of colors you pick when you're not trying to impress people, just live. Mia helped. She picked a deep blue for her room, said it felt like safety. I made her a little reading corner in there, with a bean bag and a salt lamp and a fuzzy throw blanket she basically lives under now. Next, the furniture. I sold most of what Trisha brought in, posted it all on Facebook Marketplace under the title, Lightly Used, Aggressively Soulless. Jay thought that was too savage. I thought it was accurate. Then I brought in stuff I loved. A thrifted yellow couch. Plants everywhere like borderline jungle vibes. A coffee table with a crooked leg I refuse to fix because it's charming and stubborn and somehow feels like me. One weekend, Mia and I painted a mural on the dining room wall. It's not perfect. There's a weird blob that was supposed to be a sunflower but now looks like a golden meatball. Still, it's ours. And slowly but surely, the house stopped feeling like a battlefield. Started feeling like home. But let me be real, I didn't just magically heal overnight. Grief is weird. Sneaks up on you in the most random moments. Like I'd be folding laundry and suddenly remember how my dad used to do the same thing while humming to Johnny Cash. Or I'd open a kitchen drawer and find one of his old tools, the ones he always used to fix things with, and it'd hit me like a wave. that he's not coming back, that this house is both a gift and a scar. But you know what helped the most? Choosing not to make him the reason I stayed stuck. 'Cause for a long time I felt like reclaiming the house meant clinging to the past. But now I think it means honoring it. Mia started therapy. Big win. She's doing better. She still talks to Trisha sometimes, mostly through short texts, but she sets boundaries now. She says things like, "That's not my job to fix," and "I need space," and I swear it makes me emotional every time. She even said she might apply for college next year, something Trisha told her she was too sensitive for. I told her, being sensitive isn't a flaw, it's a superpower. As for me, I started freelancing again. Small gigs here and there, nothing huge yet, but it's progress. And one night while I was cleaning out the attic, I found a letter. Yeah, another letter. But this one was from my dad. It was dated a few months before he passed. He must have written it and tucked it away somewhere, probably forgot to even give it to me. It said, "If you're reading this, I hope I'm still around to say all this in person. But just in case, I want you to know this house will always be yours. Not just legally, emotionally. It's where your heart grew, where I watched you become the strongest person I know. Don't let anyone make you feel like you don't belong here. You belong. Always." Yeah, I sobbed. Ugly cried. Called Jay in the middle of the night and read it to him while sniffling into a roll of paper towels. But it was exactly what I needed. Because after everything, the betrayal, the manipulation, the drama, the thing that hurt the most was feeling like I didn't have a home. And that letter brought me back, full circle. So now, whenever people ask me about that house, I tell them, it used to be my dad's. Then it got taken over by someone who didn't love it. And now it's mine again. But better. Sometimes Mia and I sit on the porch with mugs of hot chocolate and just exist. No talking, no background noise, just peace. And on one of those nights she asked me, "Do you think she regrets it?" I shrugged. Probably. But I'm not waiting on it. She nodded. Yeah, me neither. I wasn't planning to tell you this part. I thought the story ended with peace, with healing, with quiet mornings and messy dinners and a living room full of plants and bad reality TV. But apparently, closure has a sense of humor. Because 6 months after Trisha moved out, 6 months of total silence, I heard a knock at the door. I opened it. And there she was, standing on the porch, wearing oversized sunglasses like she was about to get papped by TMZ, holding a little designer tote bag that looked very out of place in my very real, very unphotoshopped life. I didn't say anything. I just blinked. She took off her glasses. Her eyes were puffy. "I just wanted to see it one more time," she said quietly. I could feel Jay in my head screaming, "Shut the door. Shut it so hard the wind carries her back to whatever cottagecore fantasy land she lives in." But I didn't. I stepped out onto the porch and closed the door behind me. She looked at the house. Like really looked at it. "You changed everything," she said. "Yep. It looks good." I crossed my arms. "Why are you here?" She swallowed. "Mia told me she's applying to college. She said you're helping her. I wanted to thank you. I know I wasn't. I know I was wrong." Silence. Then she said, "You don't have to forgive me. I just needed to say it." And honestly, I believed her. Because she looked like a woman who wasn't performing. I didn't hug her. I didn't say, "It's okay," 'cause it wasn't. But I did nod. A single, sharp little nod. Just enough to say, "I heard you." Then I stepped back inside, closed the door and locked it. And that was the real ending. No dramatic speech. No full circle moment. Just boundaries. Growth. So yeah, that's the story. And no, I don't miss her. Not even a little. But I do hope she finds peace, preferably very far away from my mailbox. As for me, I've got a house full of warm lights, bad dance music, and a little sister applying to college. Really appreciate you listening. Honestly. If you like the story, don't forget to like, comment, and consider subscribing. And if you've been through something similar, I'd really love to hear it down in the comments. We're stronger when we share. Take care.